Welcome to my full Sayers Advanced video. This video goes along with my Sayers Advanced document, which will be linked in the description, and goes over all the patterns for each set of Sayers Advanced cases. I decided to make this video because there aren't any recent tutorials and everyone suggests different videos to use. Because of this, I'm going to try to make this video as in-depth and as instructive as possible so that it's easy to learn. So for when I think you should learn the method, I don't think you should learn it until you're at least sub 6, maybe sub 6.5. and you know intermediate very well. Because if you don't know intermediate well enough or you're not fast enough with it, then advanced is just going to be very hard to learn and it's not going to be worth it. I'm going to be teaching all the cases in the order that I think you should learn them in, but you can still feel free to skip around the video if you'd like. One thing I want to mention before we get started is that I'm not going to go over each individual case. I'm going to go over the pattern for each set of cases, because it's better to learn the patterns than each individual case, and it's much easier. For most Sayers Advanced cases, there's more than one way to do each case that have the same sledge count. So you could have two different ways that both solve a case in like 3 sledges. And because of this, you want to experiment with every case and find the best solutions for you. The first few sets of cases that I'm going to teach are the most important to learn, and they lay the foundation for the future sets. So you want to make sure you know these first few sets very well, because it'll help you with learning the next ones. Okay, so starting off, we have the L3Cs. You should already know these if you're going to learn advanced, but I'm just going to go over them anyway just to be thorough. So starting with the U Perm, this is 3 centers that need to cycle in a line like this. So what you want to do is hold the U center in the back or the opposite center in the front, and you want to do a sledge from this angle. And then you're going to do a Y2 and rotate the cube over to this side and do another sledge, and that'll solve the cube. And then now we have the O Perms. What you want to do for the O Perm is set up the U center to the back in one move like this. So now they're set up in a line like a U Perm, and then you're going to do a U Perm from this angle. And then you're going to undo this last setup move. And then here's another example with the O Perm. You're going to take the U center, put it in the back once again, and then U Perm, and then undo the setup move. Alright, so now we're moving on to the L4C cases, or last 4 centers. Once again, you should already know these cases, but I'm going over them anyways. First we have the H Perm, which has 4 opposite centers and a solved U center. What you want to do is hold it from any angle because it's the same from all 4 angles, and you're going to do a sledge, and then you're going to do a Y2, and then you're going to do a hedge, and then you're going to do a Y2 and do a sledge. So that algorithm is just sledge, Y2, hedge, Y2, sledge. It's pretty easy. And now we're moving on to the Z Perm, which has a swap of centers here and a swap of centers here. You're going to hold one swap on the left and one swap on the right, and you're going to do this algorithm. R, L prime, U prime, L, U, L, R, L prime, R. Moving on to the Triple Sledge case, which has a swap here, and then these 2 centers need to swap, and this one's solved in the back. What you want to do is hold it in front like this, and then you're just going to do 3 sledges. So sledge, sledge, sledge. It's pretty easy. And now we have the Z Perm Conjugate, which is similar to the Z Perm because it has 2 sets of swaps, but the U center isn't solved and this one's solved instead. So what you're going to do is set this case up to a triple sledge in one move. So you're going to take these 2 centers and you're going to move them so that they're in the top and the front, so that these 2 need to swap and these 2 need to swap. And then you're going to do a triple sledge. So sledge, sledge, sledge. And then you're just left with one move. For these cases, what you want to do is cancel a move either at the beginning or the end. For this case, you can't cancel one at the beginning because you have this move and then you have a sledge here. So you're just going to do this setup move and then do your first 2 sledges. And then at the 3rd sledge, if you're doing it here, right, you end up doing this move twice. So you can just not do that at all, and you can cancel a move like that. So you do a setup move, sledge, sledge, and then you're canceling a move on the last sledge. For these next cases, we have pi plus H perm, pure pi, and pi plus Z perm. So we're going to start with pi plus H perm. What you want to do is solve the corners normally, like you would do in like a beginner method. So you just put the headlights on the right and then do a sledge here. And then this will leave a vertical U Perm, which you can just rotate over here and solve like normal. Next case is pure pi, which has all the centers solved. What you want to do is hold the headlights on the left and then do a sledge. And then this will leave with one last sledge. So it's just sledge, sledge. And then for this case, I recommend learning the regripless finger trick. So you have a sledge position like this. This is how you'd hold it for a sledge. But then you move all your fingers up one. And then you do an R prime, R, and then push this here, and then bring this back, and then you're just left in a normal sledge position. I recommend learning that because pure pi shows up in a lot of cases later on, so it's good to know the best finger trick for it. And now we have pi plus Z Perm, which what you're going to do is do a pure pi, so you're going to hold these two on the left, these headlights, and then you're going to do a pure pi like this. And then this is just going to leave a Z Perm, which you can solve with the algorithm from before. Okay, so now we have the peanut plus H Perm, the pure peanut, and peanut plus Z Perm. So starting with the peanut plus H Perm, what you want to do is solve this intermediate case like normal. So you're going to hold it from here and do hedge, sledge, sledge, just like normal for your intermediate to solve the U face. And then it's going to leave a U Perm, which you can just solve like normal with two sledges. And now we have pure peanut, which what you're going to do is do a pure pi here, rotate over here and do another pure pi. So you're going to hold it here, do a pure pi, and then this will leave another pure pi, just like that. And now we have the peanut plus Z Perm, which you're going to solve the same way as the peanut plus H Perm, where you're going to solve the intermediate case like normal by doing hedge, sledge, sledge, which leaves a U Perm that you can solve like normal. For these cases, I recommend learning the NS algorithms for them because the Sayers Advanced solutions are pretty bad and you'd benefit a lot from learning the NS algs. Next, we have the pi plus triple sledge cases where there's a solved center and then two opposite centers, and then these two need to swap. So I'm going to start with the ones where the U center is in the front and the U center is in the back. What you want to do is hold the U center in the front and then either do a sledge or a hedge. It doesn't matter which one because they both lead to the same case. So if you do a sledge here, it'll end up with pure peanut, which you can solve like normal. So then for this one, let's say you want to do a hedge here. It'll also give pure peanut and you can just do the alg like normal. So now moving on to the good ones, which have the U center on the left or the U center on the right. These ones are just your normal sledge or hedge. So for this, if you just hold the U center in front and you do a sledge, it'll solve the cube. And then for this one, if you hold the U center in the front, you do a hedge, it'll solve the cube. For the cases where the U center is in the front or in the back, it's recommended to learn the NS algs because once again, those cases are just really, really terrible. Next, we have the pi plus vertical U Perm, which as it suggests, it's a pi case with a vertical U Perm through the top. So I'm going to start once again with the ones where it's in the back or in the front. So for these cases, what you want to do is hold the headlights on the left and do a pure pi, which will leave a U Perm, which you can solve like normal. And same thing for this, hold the headlights on the left, do a pure pi, and then it leaves a U Perm. These next cases where the U center is on the left or the right, these are called the H Perm skip cases because if you solve the U face like normal, you get an H Perm. So what you want to do is hold the U center in the back, and to solve the corners you would do a hedge here, but you want to do the opposite of that. So you want to do a sledge here instead, which will give you another pi case, which you can just rotate to the other side and it'll just give you a hedge. So then for this one, if you do a hedge here, you'll get an H Perm, which is not good. So you hold it from the other side and do a hedge here instead, which will give you a one sledge case. So next we have the peanut plus X Perm cases. These are some of the most important cases in all of Sayers Advanced, so it's very important that you know these well. So a peanut plus X is a peanut with two opposite centers right next to each other. And what you want to do is hold the adjacent center in front. So not the U center and not the opposites, just like the normal one, hold it in front. And if you don't know, you can do these intermediate cases two different ways. You can either do it from here with a hedge first, so hedge, sledge, or you can do it from over here with a sledge first, so sledge, sledge. And because of this, you can solve these peanut plus X perms in two sledges every time. So all peanut cases have a left misoriented corner and a right misoriented corner, and I would use these corners to determine if I had to do a sledge or a hedge first. So for the peanut plus X perms, if the starting angle of the alg is closest to the left corner, then you have to do a hedge, and if it's closer to the right corner, then you have to do a sledge. So since the starting angle is right here on this center, it's closest to the left corner, which means you have to do a hedge. So you do a hedge from this angle, and then it just leaves a one sledge like that. So then for this one, we hold it from this angle because this is the adjacent center, and since it's next to the right corner, we're going to start with a sledge. And then this leaves us with one more sledge. And then for this case, the adjacent center is right here, so we're going to hold it from this angle, and once again it's next to the right corner, so we're going to start with a sledge, and then rotate over here, and we just have a hedge. For this set specifically, there are two cases where you want to cancel moves in your sledge. So for this case, where you do a hedge here and then another hedge here, you want to cancel the move in your hedge, because your first hedge is here, and then your second hedge goes up like this again. So what you want to do is start your hedge like this, and then instead of going up for your last move of the hedge, go down, and then finish the second hedge like this. And then for this one, which is sledge here and then sledge again, it's the same thing for the other case, where when you do your first sledge, your second sledge has the same move again. So what you want to do is start your first sledge, and then instead of bringing this back down, bring it up, and then finish your second sledge like this. Okay, so moving on to the peanut plus Z Perm conjugates. So they're a peanut with one solved center and no opposite centers. And what you're going to do for these cases is you're going to put the U center in the back, and then you're going to either do a sledge or a hedge here, depending on the case. For this case, it's going to be a sledge, and then you're going to get a peanut plus X Perm, which you can just solve in two sledges. What you want to do is you're always going to want to rotate towards where the solved center used to be. So you're going to do this sledge, and then you're going to rotate over here, and then you're rotating here. So the way I recognize if you have to do a sledge or a hedge for the first sledge is based on the corners once again, but it's flipped from the peanut plus X Perm. So if you're near the left corner, then it's going to be a sledge, and if you're near the right corner, it's going to be a hedge. So since this case is near the left corner, from this angle, you're going to do a sledge, and then into the peanut plus X Perm. And then this case, you hold the U center in the back once again, and then this is also next to the left corner, so we're going to do a sledge here, and then we get the sledge cancel peanut X Perm. And then for this last example, we once again put the U center in the back, and now we're next to the right corner, which means we need to do a hedge here, which leaves us another peanut plus X Perm, just like that. Something I want to note about this set of cases is that whatever the first sledge is, the last one is going to be the same. So if you're starting with a hedge here, the third one is also going to be a hedge. And about the rotations, if you start here, you're going to rotate towards the solved center, and then you're going to rotate back. So we're going to start with a hedge, and then rotate here, and then sledge, and then we're going to rotate back for the hedge. Okay, next we have the peanut plus horizontal U Perm. So it's a peanut with solved U center, and then there's a horizontal U Perm like this. And what you want to do for these cases is hold the opposite center in the back. And then you're going to do a sledge or hedge depending on the case. And the corner recognition is exactly the same as the peanut plus Z Perm conjugate. So when you're next to the left corner, you're doing a sledge, and the right corner is a hedge. So for this case, since the starting angle is next to the left corner, we're doing a sledge first. And then once again, this leaves a peanut plus X Perm, which you can just solve in two sledges. And for this set of cases, you're always going to rotate to where the solved center was, just like the Z Perm conjugates. So you're going to do a sledge and then rotate here. So then we're rotating here for the last two. And then for this one, we're holding the opposite center in the back. And then since we're next to the right corner, we're going to do a hedge. And then we're going to rotate over here to where the solved center was. So hedge, rotate here, and then this is just sledge, sledge. And then this last one, we hold the opposite center in the back once again, and then right corner, so we're going to hedge, and then we get hedge, sledge. Something I want to note about this set of cases is that whatever your first sledge is, the last one is going to be the opposite. So if we're starting with a hedge here, our third one is going to be a sledge. And about the rotations, you're always going to be rotating in the same direction. So after this first hedge, we're going to rotate here, and then you're going to keep rotating that way over to here. So you're going to hedge, rotate this way, and then sledge, and then your third one is going to be the opposite of the first one. So this is a sledge. The next set of cases is the pi plus Z Perm Conjugate, and they're just like the peanut plus Z Perm Conjugate, but easier. There's two types of them. There's one where the U center is in the front or the back, and there's one where the U center is on the left or the right. And I'm going to do the front and the back first. So if it's in the front or the back, you're going to put the U center in the back, and then you're going to either do a sledge or a hedge here. It doesn't matter which one because they'll both end up with the same sledge count. So let's say you want to do a sledge here. This would leave you with a peanut plus X Perm, which you can solve in two sledges. And then let's say this one, I wanted to do a hedge. This will leave another peanut plus X Perm, which you can solve like that. And then for these cases where it's on the left or the right, you're just going to put the U center in the front and you're going to solve the intermediate case. So this intermediate case is just a sledge, and that'll solve the U face, and it'll just leave you with a U Perm. And then for this case, the intermediate is just a hedge, and it will once again leave you with a U Perm. For the cases where the U center is in the front or in the back, the rotation pattern is the exact same as the peanut plus Z Perm conjugates, because you're going to start here, rotate to the solved center, and then rotate back. So if I do a hedge here, we're going to rotate to where the solved center was, do a hedge, and then we're going to rotate back for a sledge. So moving on to the pi plus horizontal U Perm, the U center is solved and there's a U Perm around the side. And there's two types of these. There's one where the solved center is in the front or in the back, and there's a type where the solved center is on the left or the right. So we're going to start if it's on the front or the back. What you're going to do is you're just going to put the headlights on the left and you're just going to do pure pi like this. This will solve the U face and just leave a U Perm. And then same thing here, put the headlights on the left and then do pure pi, which will leave a U Perm. And for these cases, it's super easy to recognize where the U Perm is going to be because the centers are going to stay in place. And now we have where the solved center is on the left or the right. And what you're going to do is put the opposite center in the back like this. And then you're going to either do a sledge or a hedge. It doesn't matter which one because they're going to lead to the same sledge count. And then after that sledge or hedge, you're going to rotate over here, and then you're going to keep rotating this way. So let's say I do a sledge here. I'm going to rotate over to where the solved center used to be, do another sledge, and another sledge. So then for this case, put the opposite center in the back, and then I'm just going to do a hedge here, and then I know I'm going to have to rotate to this side. So I do a hedge, and then I have to do another hedge here, and then rotate again, another hedge. And then something to note about the sledge pattern for the cases where the solved center is on the left or the right is that the first sledge is going to be the exact same as the last sledge. So if I start with a hedge, the last one is also going to be a hedge. So if I do a hedge here, sledge, and then I know the last one is going to be a hedge. Okay, moving on to the peanut plus swirl perms. I'm only going to show two examples for these because they're super easy. So what you're going to do is just do the normal intermediate case. So for this case, I'm going to do a sledge and then a hedge here, just like normal for intermediate, and it's going to leave a U Perm. And then for this case, the normal intermediate is just sledge, sledge. So you do that, and then you get a U Perm. So that's it for these cases. They are insanely easy. Okay, now we're moving on to the peanut plus Wat Perms. These are almost just as easy as the swirl perms, except for these cases, you have to put the opposite in the back for your intermediate. So you put this opposite in the back, and then you're going to do your intermediate alg. So this is going to be a sledge and then a hedge. And that's also going to leave a U Perm. So then something about these cases is that your opposite center for the U Perm is always going to end up in the front. So it makes tracking the U Perm a lot easier. So for this case, you put the opposite center in the back, and then this is going to be a sledge intermediate. And then the opposite is in the front, just like that. And then this one, opposite in the back, do the intermediate, which is going to be sledge hedge. And then once again, the opposite is in the front. So yeah, these cases are also super easy. All right, now we're moving on to the peanut plus vertical U Perm. This is a peanut with two solved centers that are opposite from each other. So there's a U Perm that goes through the top. And once again, I only have two examples because it's just as easy as the Swirl Perm. So what you're gonna do is just do your intermediate algorithm for this. And that's gonna leave a U Perm. And then same for this, you have the U center here. So you're just gonna do your normal intermediate alg, and then it's gonna leave a U Perm once again. So yeah, these cases are super easy, and it's recommended to learn the NS for these cases because the algs are just super easy 8 movers, and they're much better than the advanced. Okay, now we're moving on to the pi plus O Perms. This is where there are two solved centers right next to each other. So there are also two different types. So there's one where the U center is in the front or the back, and there's one where the U center is on the left and right. So if the U center is on the front or the back, what you want to do is hold an adjacent center in front. So like you're going to hold this center in front, and then you're going to solve the corners. So you're going to do a hedge to solve the corners, and then this will just leave a vertical U Perm. So then like for this one, you're going to hold the adjacent center in front, so not the solved and not the U center. And then once again here, we're going to do a hedge to solve the corners, and then we're getting a vertical U Perm. So that's pretty easy. And then for the ones where the U center is on the left or the right, you're just going to put the U center in front and do the intermediate case. So in this case, you're going to do a sledge, and that's going to solve the U face. And then you just get a U Perm. And then same with this case, you're going to put the U center in front, and then this intermediate case is a hedge, and then it'll just give you a U Perm. All right, so the next set is the pi plus X Perm cases, which is a pi with two opposite centers. And once again, there's two types. There's a U center in the front and the back, and there's a U center on the left and the right. So once again, we're going to do the front and the back first. So what you want to do is put the adjacent center in the front. So not the opposite centers, not the U center, the adjacent center in the front, and then you're going to solve the corners. So in this case, you're going to do a sledge to solve the corners, and then this is going to leave you with a triple sledge, which you can just solve with 3 sledges, of course. And then here, you put the adjacent center in front, and here we're going to do a hedge to solve the corners. And for these cases, you're always going to rotate away from where the U center is for the triple sledge, because after you do the hedge, the U center is going to end up over here. So we're going to do the hedge and then rotate over here. And then we just have our triple sledge. All right, so for the next types of cases, you're going to put the U center in the front, and then you're just going to do the intermediate case. So this is just a sledge, and then you get a U Perm. And for these types of cases, the opposite center of the U Perm is always going to be in the back. So as soon as you get done with this hedge, you're just going to go over to the back. So yeah, we're going to do a hedge to solve the corners here, and then you're going to rotate to the back for the U Perm. So now we're moving on to the pi plus swirl perms, where there's no opposites. And once again, there's the two types. There's the one where U center's in front or back, and there's the left and the right. So we're going to start with the front and the back, of course. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look at the center on the top, and you're going to want to solve this center and the corners at the same time. So this center is orange, so you're going to go to the orange side, and then the way to solve the corners here is with a sledge. So you're going to do a sledge, and it's going to solve this center and the corners, and then it's going to leave you with a Z Perm Conjugate, which you can solve with a setup move, the triple sledge. And one thing about these cases is that after your sledge or hedge, you're always going to have to rotate twice to the other side of the cube for the Z Perm Conjugate. So here we have the green center. The green center needs to go here. So we're going to do a hedge from this angle to solve the corners and this center. And then we're going to immediately rotate to the other side for our Z Perm Conjugate. And now for the next type, where the U center is on the left or the right, we're just going to put the U center in the front, and we're just going to do the intermediate case. So in this case, it's a sledge, and then we're going to get a Z Perm, and we're just going to do the Z Perm. And then same for this case, you put the U center in the front, and here we have to do a hedge for the intermediate, and we're going to get a Z Perm. There are 4 sledge ways to do those cases, but I think just doing a sledge or a hedge into a Z Perm is faster than the 4 sledge. Alright, so now we're moving on to the peanut plus triple sledge. So there's a solved center in the back, and then 2 opposites, and then these two need to swap. So what you want to do is hold the U center in the front, and then you're going to do a hedge or sledge depending on the case. So it's the same thing as the peanut plus X Perm corner recognition. So if you're on the left corner, you're going to do a hedge, and if you're on the right corner, you're going to do a sledge. So for this case, in this orientation, you're closer to the left corner, so we're going to do a hedge. And then this is just going to give us pure pi, which you can just solve in 2 sledges. So the next example, we're going to put the U center in the front once again, and since we're next to the right corner, this is going to be a sledge. So we're going to do a sledge here, and it's going to give us pure pi. And then for this one, once again, put the U center in the front, and then this is closer to the left corner, so we're going to do a hedge, and then it's going to give us pure pi once again. Okay, now we're moving on to the peanut plus O perms, which have 2 solved centers next to each other. And so what you're going to do is hold the adjacent center in front, and it's the same corner recognition as the peanut plus X perm, where if you're next to the left corner, you're doing a hedge, and if you're next to the right corner, you're doing a sledge. So here we're next to the left corner, so we're going to do a hedge. And then this is going to leave you with an H perm skip, so you can just do sledge hedge. But I like to think about it a different way, where you're doing the intermediate case, right? So the intermediate for this is hedge and then sledge over here, but you're going to rotate the wrong way for the second sledge. So you're going to do hedge, and then you're supposed to go over here for the sledge, but we're going to go over here. So it's going to be hedge and then sledge this way. So hedge, sledge, and then it'll just leave you with a 1 hedge, like that. So that might be a bit confusing, but I'm going to go through it a few more times. So hold the adjacent in front, and then we're on the left corner, so we're going to do a hedge. And the intermediate is hedge, hedge, but we are going to go hedge, hedge this way instead of this way. So hedge, and then rotate this way for the hedge, and then sledge here. And one thing to note about the last sledge is that the last sledge is always going to be different from the second sledge. So if you're doing a hedge for the second one, the last one's always going to be a sledge. So I'll show that here. So for this case, if you hold the adjacent in front, you're on the right corner, so you're going to do a sledge. And then the intermediate for this is sledge, hedge, but we're going to do sledge, hedge this way instead. And that means that the last one is going to be a sledge from over here, because it's sledge, hedge, and then you're going to rotate twice over here for the last sledge. So sledge, hedge, rotate twice, sledge. Okay, we're on to the second to last one. It's pi plus watt. So you have pi with 1 opposite center. And once again, of course, we have the ones where the U center is on the front and the back, and we have ones where the U center is on the left and the right. So for the front and the back, what you're going to do is put the U center in the back, and then you're going to do a sledge or a hedge. It doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to do a sledge here. And then this is going to leave me with a peanut plus O perm, which you just learned. So that's going to be a hedge, hedge, sledge. And something that can help you predict the peanut plus O is that you're always going to want to rotate to where the opposite center was. So after the sledge here or the hedge, we're going to rotate over here. So let's say I do a hedge, we rotate here. And then we just have the normal peanut plus O. So then the next ones where it's on the left or the right, you're going to put the U center in the front, and then you're just going to do the intermediate case. So this intermediate case is just a sledge. So we're going to do the sledge, and then we're going to get a U Perm. And then one thing about these cases is that the opposite center will always end up in the front after the hedge of the sledge. So for this case, the intermediate is going to be a hedge, and the U center will be in the front. So that helps a lot with predicting your U Perm. Alright guys, so now we are on to the last cases of this tutorial, and it is the L5C cases, and they are super easy. You have the X Perm and the Wat Perm. These ones are solved the exact same. You just put the U center in the back, and then you do a U Perm, and then that's just going to leave another U Perm. So that is super easy. And then same with this, you take the U center and you put it in the back, and then you do a U Perm, and then it just gives you another U Perm. Super, super easy. The swirl perms are a little bit more difficult, but they're still pretty easy. What you want to do is look at the top center, and you want to do a sledge or a hedge with where it needs to go in the front. So we have the blue center here, and the blue center needs to go here. So we want to do a sledge or hedge from this angle, not from this angle or this angle. We want to do it where it needs to go. So if I do a sledge or hedge here, we are going to end up with a pi plus Z Perm Conjugate, which you can just solve in 3 more sledges. So one thing about the swirl perms is that after your first sledge, you want to rotate to where the U center used to be. So for this case, we have the blue center, it needs to go here. So we're going to do our sledge or hedge here, and then we're going to rotate over here afterward. So I'll do a sledge, and then we rotate here for our pi plus Z Perm Conjugate. So yeah, that's all the cases.